SEC spring meetings in Destin have everybody fired up. Our friend Quantrell knows says everybody clear out. Let's let Danny go ISO. This will be a conversation that everybody gets to participate in. I mean, Danny, there is a laundry list of stuff that's coming out, like whether it's what the college football playoff format is going to be like, the transfer portal, 8-game, 9-game schedule. I mean, there's retconning and revisionist history of what happened last year and ways that we should look at that. I will let you just take this where you want to go. What stands out the most from what we are getting out of the SEC spring meetings in terms of a talking point that has gotten your attention?
Well, I mean, the SEC has been the absolute kings of propaganda from the beginning of time. Like, they know how to spin things in their favor, and they have, and it's actually worked really well for them. There's a lot of here like that I can totally agree with, like, and I think we all could. Kirby Smart getting up there and pounding the table for one transfer portal, window in January after the season makes a ton of sense. Playing 9 games to me makes a ton of sense, but I understand their pushback. The ACC, I think it's interesting. Did anybody at ACC spring meeting say anything about a 9-game conference schedule?
It might have been mentioned in a breakout session. It was not a headline.
Right.
Really
like
9 games.
No, but I would want, Right. I would want them to actually have 8 conference games, and then you have to play 2 against, either the Big 10, SEC, or Big 12, or the Big 12, have them cross over. But they really do need to play against the SEC or Big 10. Conference continuity is what we need, where everybody does the same thing. That's the ultimate. But the thing that's caught the biggest attention is the playoffs and the way that they're trying to manipulate the playoffs so that they can have as many teams as possible. Because guess what? It's worked for a long time when they had up half the field in the 4-team playoff, which is why Greg thinks he's like, sure, we'll go back. You want us to go back to the 4 teams? Sure, we'll go back to that, because we had 2 a lot of the time. It's worked in basketball where they've had, 14 out of 16 teams? Mm-hmm. Baseball, they've got 13 out of 16. Softball, they've had the most ever. Like, it helps to get a lot of teams to get a swing at the national championship. So most of the time you will get, a national championship, and then you can claim you're the best conference in the land. And it's worked for them for a long time. And I think they're trying to do it in football, which is, why I've been pretty consistent. Now, I was more consistent in the 14 team, where I was okay with the 4-4-2-2-1 model. Going to 16, where there's 3 at large, gets me a little bit more nervous, because I think there's a lot of times that there's going to be 6 from the SEC in a 16-team field, and possibly 7.
If you go to a 16-team model, I'm not so sure that there shouldn't be 6 SEC teams. At that point, I have a real hard time filling it out with teams that actually have the talent to compete for a title. And like, that's all encompassing. Like, obviously you have to earn your way in, which is sort of like the SEC's all powerful Oz thing. Like, they're like, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. And the man behind the curtain is what you actually do against the schedule you play. They really just want you to look at only the schedule played, not like your results against that schedule played. I found some of the comments from Sankey to be like really disingenuous, but everybody has agendas, right? He's like, we're not going to put out this, prepared statement and media blitz thing. Like, I think he was implying maybe the ACC and Big 12 did. And yet all of the SEC ADs who spoke yesterday came out in lockstep about how they don't like a committee. I'm like, do you mean the committee that basically put every single SEC basketball team into the tournament, and damn near every SEC baseball team, and put in Alabama over undefeated Florida State the year before, and pretty much routinely has given the SEC quite a bit of favor? And I think if you look at it, and we discussed this on Twitter yesterday a little bit, like the due consideration given to Alabama for its schedule was the fact they were even considered down the stretch
as a 3-loss team with a loss to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma.
Vanderbilt, and look, we love Vandy. Obviously, Barton's there. Vandy lost to Georgia State, okay? And you lost to a 6-7 Oklahoma team, and not close. Like, they whipped you, and you weren't getting better over the course of the season, which I do think is something the committee does consider. It's like, who's actually improving down the stretch. That's something we talked about in that move from 4 to 12. Like, nobody could argue Bama was getting better. They were kind of regressing as the season went on, whereas certain teams, maybe in SMU, when they switched to Kevin Jennings from Preston Stone at quarterback, they took off like a house of fire.
Yep.
So I found it a little bit disingenuous, but everybody's going to argue their own points. I think the SEC could get more teams in if they did not want to go with this 4-4-2-2-1 thing. But the thing is, they want to have basically play-in games within their tournament, and they have to find a way to keep the conference championship games relevant from a business perspective. Let's all remember, like, we love this sport, but you're rooting for a business, or for a basically like a franchise of a larger business, whatever it's South Carolina or Michigan, right? Like, you guys root for a business. So a lot of these decisions aren't really made for the fans or for us or for the TV product enjoyment. It's like maximum number of eyeballs, maximum amount of inventory. And when I look at this, like the whole idea, we're going to go to a 16 team and you're going to have 2 teams that have double buys. That's the most like cockamamie scheme ever. But the thing is, it keeps the conference championship games relevant, which I don't care about. But I guarantee the SEC and Big Ten really do, because they make a lot of money from our company, Fox, NBC, and ESPN, respectively, there when they have them. So I'm talking too much here.
Well, I would push back that it's like if you're rooting for a team on Saturdays in the fall, you're rooting for a team. If you're trying to celebrate wins and losses in May, then you are rooting for a business. And I think that for some college football fans, it can get a little lost that when you are rooting for wins in May for your favorite conference, they don't care about you. Like, honestly, the team probably cares more about you on the field in the fall in the stadium than there is nothing to be won or lost for fans. Or you could argue maybe there's only stuff to be lost. But at this time, I think what is important is just to be interested and to voice an opinion and see how things go. I don't think anybody is looking to please a certain fan base. I don't think a South Carolina fan, I don't think an Indiana fan has anything to win coming out of a conference spring meeting. It's just kind of the order of business.
Agreed. But they all are going to like beat their chest and chant SEC, right? I'm like, this doesn't necessarily make it a better product. This makes it kind of a worse product. I do wonder, like, for how long is this going to be a thing? I don't know if they're going to get this 4 guaranteed bid thing. Maybe they will, but it seems like the Big 12 and the ACC really do kind of care about that not happening, at least not right now. So maybe it won't. I also wanted, when the ADs were speaking yesterday, maybe I should just gone and asked the question, but I didn't know they were going to come out with this media blitz. So you say you don't want the committee. What result do you think would have been fair last year in this selection process? Are you going to tell me like Ole Miss, which lost at home to Kentucky, or that 3-loss Bama team? I don't, like, you say it's not optimal, but almost every break always goes to the SEC. Like, there's no 2-loss teams from other conferences getting considered at all. So you're already getting quite a bit of hat tip for your conference schedule, which I think is noteworthy and real. But if you have the best players and you spend the most money, like, how rigged do you want this to be?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. Do the conferences get paid by the number of teams that get in the same way that they do in the basketball tournament?
And by how they advance.
Okay, well, that's why. They don't have a problem with committees. They have a problem with last year's committee. And all the ADs are pissed about it because, like you said, Bud, it's a business. And in their budgets, they were accounting on having 4 SEC teams in the playoff and getting that money. And then
so you think it's retroactive anger about like the budget money they were counting on.
I don't have the money all of a sudden.
But what's their share for one extra SEC team and divided by 16? Like, it can't be. For
a whole athletic department, it's not like, hey, sorry, softball, y'all are taking the bus now. I mean, it's not, I don't think that we're talking about those kinds of differences when it's like that unit cut into 16 and then the share after that. But it might just be the principle of it.
But going back to your point, though, about what would have been fair, between Alabama and Ole Miss, the losses to Kentucky, Florida, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma, those 4 teams, when they combined, 6-22 in the SEC against everybody but Alabama and Ole Miss. So the results we got were the fair results. You didn't deserve to be in because you lost those games. And strength of schedule was considered. That's why you were ranked higher than teams with fewer losses than you had, because of your strength of schedule. So it is a whole lot of just hindsight is 120, I guess, in this case, when they're looking back at it, how things actually broke down. As for the format, I've got my own kind of proposal I'm working on. I haven't completely finished yet, but I'm going to be publishing it sometime either this week or next week. I have a compromise for the SEC and the Big Ten. If they want the auto bids, you won't get 4. We'll give you some. But we're also going to cap how many teams each conference can have in any given year. No conference can have more than 4.
Ooh.
You want to make
Like,
this? You want to keep this
They'll
sport
never
national?
sign off. They would not compromise.
I'm just
I would
saying.
love it. It's a great
if
idea.
You actually, like my preferred format would be basically the one I'm working on now. Is you give the Big Ten and the SEC 3 automatic berths, because let's be real, if we go to 16, there isn't going to be a season in which each of those leagues don't get 3 teams in anyway.
Right.
Correct.
So you give them 3 automatic berths, but you cap them at 4. You also give 2 G5 teams auto bids, the top 2 conference champions from the G5. And you do that because that way you don't have to give these teams buys. You just give them the G5 team in the first round and let them win by 45 points. There's your buy. Okay, you move on. You might even face another one in the second round. And then the at-larges would be between the other conference champions, which, the Big 12 and the ACC automatically get into. So there's 6 at-larges left at that point, one of which will probably go to Notre Dame. Then there's 5 more at-larges. One will be Big 10, one will be SEC. Then the other 3 will go to the Big 10 and the ACC. Everybody eats. Everybody's happy. You could stop eating each other. You can just keep going in the direction you get, and you're going to make money. You're going to be rich. Everybody will be happy. Just shut up and be happy with what you got. That's my plan for now.
Can you
I'm
give
fine
that
with
to
either
Sankey?
way.
He was the one who asked. He said, no one's giving me any ideas. He's
So
like,
my phone's not ringing
let's
off the
go.
hook. Let's
But
call
send him, text that to him repeatedly, every hour. So he says his phone's ringing.
It sounds like Jim Phillips and Brett Yormark have been giving him an idea for quite some time now, based on the reporting out there. They're like, hey, what about this?
Right. They definitely have, and he doesn't really care.
He
what's interesting about
issue with that.
He also is throwing out crazy stuff, which is not going to happen in the near future about how they're going to break away from the NCAA.
Mm-hmm.
Right now,
already
you kind of need those extra 300 schools to be your legal shield, so they pay up for stuff that is where the liability is primarily being incurred by the top teams, which are overwhelmingly in your league and Petit's league.
I was entertained.
Long-term, maybe.
Honestly,
no.
I didn't take it seriously, but I was entertained at Greg Sankey being up there. But I'm not saying it. I'm just saying I've got ADs in there that are asking.
They're asking.
Why are we even in the NCAA? People are saying this. A lot of people are saying this, and then all of a sudden it's like, why are we in the NCAA? Big graphic letters. It's.
But they kind of already are out.
It.
Aren't they already out? Kind of. They've got the best of both worlds, right?
They definitely have the best of both worlds right now.
So
college football's not in the NCAA. College football's in the college football playoff, and the SEC's running the college football playoff.
Right.
And they get to keep the legal protection of, hey, Furman, can you chip in $150K on when we lose the next lawsuit? Let's rewind about 14 months when we had Dennis on here, and he was talking about the big thing coming is not house, it's the concussion stuff, which is why they were trying to make some of those changes, some of which were probably lip service and some of which maybe legitimate safety changes. ADs maybe asking about this. I don't think ADs deal with the liability piece nearly as much as school presidents and school council. My guess is school presidents are not being like, hey, let's just go ahead and shoulder all the liability ourselves right now. What do you guys think? No, if you got somebody else that will pick up the tab, let's hold on to that for a little bit longer, guys.
Do you guys I'm sure you guys have seen the numbers about if there wasn't a committee, almost nothing would have been different. Almost through the 12.
We just did the
top
BCS.
12. Yeah, and even a 16. If you would have eliminated the committee and just used the BCS rankings, I think and they might have been slightly out of order, but as far as the teams, they were all right about the same.
Yeah, there were a couple of seedings. There were a couple of seedings that were different that would have been all, I think the greatest difference if you'd used the strict BCS formula with last year's rankings was 2 spots for all those significant positions along the way.
Fundamentally, it's maybe not fundamentally, but in spirit, the selection committee isn't really any different than the BCS because they're all being shown a certain set of stats and then picking the best teams based on those stats. And the BCS formula was based on computer polls, which were using stats, and human polls, which, whatever. But when you combine them all together, you kind of get the same result as you do with a group of people looking at green and red boxes.
Yep.
In related news about SEC ADs being pissed off that only, how many teams got in last year?
3.
Yeah, I did a model run. And if Bama and Georgia return to form and Arch is legit, I think there's a very real world in which the Big Ten gets 4, Notre Dame gets in, Big 12 gets 1, ACC gets 2, and SC gets 3.
Again.
Because of all the everybody just beating up on each
South
other?
Carolina and LSU and Florida and Missouri, because their schedule is kind of a cakewalk, and Oklahoma's improved and Auburn's improved, and they all beat each other up, and you got a lot of 8-4, and then you got 3 teams sitting up there at like 12-0, 11-1, 10-2. We're running it back.
And then next spring, the SEC is talking about going to a 6-game conference schedule.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, it's
They kind of have an elite team problem right now, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to continue. I really don't think it will. I don't want to be disingenuous here, but
I mean, it is kind of ironic because when you think about the schools that they have added, like they add Texas and Oklahoma, which are like, national title blue blood contenders. And you look at the Big Ten, it's like, yeah, they added Oregon and then theoretically USC, but they also bring in UCLA and Washington. So they kind of bring in mid-level teams to kind of take some of those losses. And you can argue in the long run, maybe the SEC should have gone for a larger brand that wasn't as good at football as Texas, Oklahoma.
Hey, Chapel Hill's right there, baby. I'm telling you.
That's what I'm saying. The SEC needs more North Carolina.
Florida State right now. I mean, hey, Daddy, that's our ticket, dude.
Hey, time slot champs,
take
TV ratings, and L's, baby. Let's go.
So I'm saying if I'm the SEC right now, I'm calling like Virginia Tech and North Carolina and just saying, hey, guys, you want in? We need some wins.
Like, I think the SEC's like 6 through 12 is demonstrably better than the Big Ten's 6 through 12.
Yes.
But it's 1 through 5 is not. Like the Big Ten's 1 through 5 last 2 years has been better than the SEC's. A lot of that's quarterback play, I think, and probably coaching culture as well. I think there's a little bit less me in the Big Ten than the SEC. Like I hear fewer. I said this like a year ago. We hear fewer,
I know. I
mean,
like
people get really mad about this, but we hear fewer stories about like the crazy agent stuff out of the Big Ten than we do the SEC. I don't know why that is, but just anecdotally, I hear less.
It's a fun broad trope to like continue to pull on and ask questions about because
I don't know it's going to continue though.
Right. But it checks out with what we've seen in terms of the transfer portal activity, player retention, some of these huge, big money, big star players that show up and then don't live up to it. I mean,
like the SEC fans care more, but Big Ten players care more.
Ooh, put it on a shirt.
Just means more to the fans,
to our players.
players.